All right, maybe we'll go ahead and get started then. Thank you all so much for coming. Hopefully you are here for study abroad and research. If not, you've stumbled into the best Zoom session around, so please stick around. We're going to go ahead and kind of kick this thing off here. Just a little bit of a presentation overview. We'll kind of go over introductions here for the presenters. We'll talk to you a little bit about why study abroad, why research, the different types of study abroad programs we have available, especially those that are particular to research. Then we'll definitely talk about funding, which is very important for, I think, probably all of you. And then we'll go ahead and have a student panel. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to go ahead and type them in the chat. We'll probably stop here and there and ask if you have any questions. And then at the end, after the student panel, there'll be some time for Q&A. So let's go ahead and start off. Bob, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes. Hey, everybody. I'm Bob Pleasance. I am the Associate Director in the Office for Undergraduate Research.
Susan?
After a year and a half, I still have to find the mute button, right? Hi, everybody. I'm the Associate Director of the Institute for the Environment, and I, along with collaborators, help run the domestic field sites.
Thank you. And my name is Derek Shepard. I am at the Study Abroad office. I'm one of our 3 study abroad advisors. We are all kind of regionally focused. I do Asia, Middle East, Africa, Scandinavia, domestic programs as well with Susan. So if you have any kind of questions on those, I'd be happy to answer those. And then we also have 2, just for brevity, I'll just go ahead and introduce. We've got Colleen and then we've got Priska, 2 students who will also be presenting during our panel. You know, if you have any questions for them, I'm sure they'd love to entertain them. They'll be talking about their time abroad. And Priska is still at Morehead City right now. So we'll go ahead and start off and pass it back to Bob.
Hey, folks. I am excited to talk to you today. I want to just give a quick plug for our office and then also give you some information about University Research Week. Hopefully, you've gotten lots of information about that. But our office exists essentially to promote undergraduate research, to help to make sure that students understand that it's a possibility, and it's a possibility really in anything that you want to do. It's also something that you can do on campus or via study abroad. So there's many places that you can do it, not just here on campus. And we also work with you directly to help you find opportunities. So we also want to make it easier for you to find out opportunities, whether it's through the study abroad office or here on campus. So we encourage you to go to our website to find out more. And if you ever have a question about undergraduate research, you can also make an appointment with us and with me in particular. I'm happy to talk to you one-on-one to kind of advise you about how to get involved in research. And then lastly, before we talk about research and study abroad, again, hopefully you've probably had 5 messages in your inbox between last week and today, but hopefully you found this workshop or this talk today via information around University Research Week, which is our annual celebration of research at Carolina. We have more than 60 events planned this week, which is amazing. So we hope that you'll take advantage of not only today's workshop, but go to a few others throughout the week.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, thanks.
So just a little bit about kind of studying abroad. And I'm sorry if I sound like I'm in a fishbowl. I just moved to a new location here, so this is the first time doing this, but hopefully you can hear me okay. You can definitely earn credit studying abroad, doing a research program, or just studying abroad generally. You can definitely graduate on time, so don't let anybody tell you otherwise. We have a lot of students that are pre-med that go abroad. You can absolutely earn major, minor, gen ed credit when you go abroad. You automatically get your EE credit, so if you need that kind of gen ed knocked out. The only caveat to that, if you are pre-med in here, you want to make sure you take those kind of core courses at UNC or on a faculty-led program, and we'll talk about faculty-led programs a little bit later on. As far as kind of the credits that you can earn, summer programs are usually 3 to 6 credits, although we've got some programs, for example, in Singapore, where you can earn, I think, 10 or 12 credits for a summer program over there doing intensive research in a lab. And then also for students to study abroad for a semester, we require that you maintain your full-time status as a student. So that's between 12 to 18 UNC credits. So definitely possible to earn all types of credits while you're abroad. As far as why would you want to kind of do research abroad? Well, it's a really great way to kind of make a connection with a faculty member or members. And I'm sure Susan will talk about this later on when she talks about the field sites. Really great to learn alongside professionals who have been doing this for a long time. We've got some programs, for example, the one that goes to Thailand, where you get to do really field research with some really knowledgeable faculty and staff over there. It's just really a great opportunity to kind of build on a relationship with the professors at UNC, in addition to just kind of having a kind of more close-knit group. So a lot of our field sites, and Prisca will talk about this too, are, you're looking at like 10 to maybe 20 students that you're with. So a really great opportunity to get to know your peers in a cohort model, and then also just a different kind of teaching style. So if you're kind of a little bit more experiential education based, more kinesthetic learner, I would definitely encourage you to look into some research programs that we have. It gets you out of the classroom, gets you in a different setting. And so it really kind of helps those of us who maybe aren't the kind of just visual or auditory learners. And then I think this is kind of true for all of study abroad, but also research too. I mean, you're really kind of figuring out how to solve problems along the way. You're tackling issues that maybe haven't been solved before or that are hot topics, in addition to working in facilities and places abroad that, or even domestically, that have cutting, state-of-the-art, cutting-edge kind of technology to be able to kind of do research. So, and then just study abroad generally, you really kind of grow and learn a lot. I will say in my own kind of personal path, study abroad kind of really set up a trajectory for me to go to become a Peace Corps volunteer in Thailand, go to graduate school, to do a lot of things. And so that if I didn't do this really unique, weird Buddhist studies program in India, I probably wouldn't have had the trajectory that I did. Became a monk in Thailand for a little while. So really, I say this as it's really a transformative, transformational experience to study abroad, and doing research is one avenue to that, and we're going to focus a little bit more on that today too. But yeah, personal benefits. There we go. I mean, just the increased kind of self-confidence that you get, the lasting impact on your worldview. I know I've met with so many students over the years, and I've written a lot of recommendations for students, whether that be to graduate school or to the Peace Corps or AmeriCorps. It really just kind of, it changes your worldview and perspective, both personally and professionally. So, and it also looks great on a resume too. I'm sure you hear that, and hopefully that's not the only reason why you would do research, but it certainly is something that will help you later on in life too, and just better ability to kind of deal with uncertainty as you get out there and navigate the world on your own. This is just kind of in line with that as well. So, and I would say when you study abroad on programs and when you do research abroad, you're going to meet quite a diverse cohort of students. If you do a faculty-led program, you're going to be kind of with UNC students for the most part. But if you go abroad and do research or go abroad and study abroad, you're going to meet a lot of different people, that international students, and some countries that you go to too are actually quite diverse as well. So it's a really great opportunity to kind of get outside of maybe your UNC bubble and interact with people that maybe you wouldn't normally interact with too. So as far as the programs that we have, we've got a variety of programs. We've got over 470 countries. As I mentioned earlier, they range anywhere from 3 weeks to a full year. We've got some that are kind of during that Maymester time as well. So if you're rather limited in time frame to go abroad, then we can talk about those. And there's options that way. I've got some students though that study abroad for 3 semesters. I had one student, she studied abroad in India for a semester, and then she studied abroad in New Zealand for an entire year. So there's opportunities to study abroad multiple times, and the sooner you go, the more opportunities there are to go multiple times. I studied abroad fall of my senior year, and that was the only time that I really could kind of do that afterwards. So I would encourage some of you, especially if you're a freshman, sophomore, to think about studying abroad sooner rather than later. But if you are an upperclassman, then it's certainly possible to go later as well. Let me also just say for courses, I know sometimes students are saying, hey, I can't go to Asia, I can't go to this place because I don't speak the language. All of your classes will be in English unless you have a high enough proficiency or are fluent in the local language. In fact, ironically, it's more difficult to go to Spain or France and some other countries that are more traditional because the language requirement that you have to have in your classes would be in that language. So just a plug for Asia. If you are interested in going over to Asia and want to do research over there, I've got some really interesting programs in Hong Kong, in Singapore, places where all your classes would be in English too. So consider those as an option as well. And I'm sure Colleen will talk about DIS and Scandinavia, other places more English friendly, but just to throw a little plug in there for some of the Asian countries. As I mentioned, there's different types of programs. We have faculty-led programs, and that's where I talked about where you get to know another UNC professor or professors. You're just going with UNC students for the most part. It's really great to do those programs because of the credit. You don't have to go through the credit transfer process. They come back, they affect your UNC GPA, and they'll show as a letter grade on there. So especially if you see honors programs as well, you just have to have over a 3.0 to be able to do honors programs. The only exception to that would be a Singapore honors program, but we do have other programs in Singapore too. But these programs are primarily in the summertime, although we've got some in spring and one that goes in spring, summer as well that are faculty led. We also have exchange direct enroll programs. So for those students who are in-state students, it allows you to kind of to study abroad at a partner university and pay your UNC in-state tuition. So even if you go to a place abroad that's more expensive, you would just pay your UNC tuition. Now, of course, living conditions and cost of living out of pocket can be more expensive, say in Europe, as opposed to going over to Asia. But each place is a little bit kind of different that way. Also for out-of-state students, if you are an out-of-state student, international student, we have some programs that are direct enroll, where you can save tens of thousands of dollars. I think I've got one program of students that are out of state can save about $20,000 studying in Thailand. So there's a lot of options to be able to save money on an exchange program or a direct enroll program too. So definitely want to talk with advisors about that, and we can talk to you about that. I'll kind of just go a little bit more about this. We've got a joint degree program as well with Singapore. So if you want to kind of earn a degree with National University of Singapore, which is a top 20 global institution, usually kind of right up there with UNC, if not higher rated in various kind of rankings, it's an option too for students to kind of earn a dual degree with both universities. So if you're interested in that, let me know. The other thing I would say, and when Colleen talks a little bit later on about DIS, she'll be talking about what we call like a third party or sometimes a partner provider. And so those are with a lot of usually US students that will go abroad. They've got usually research, internship components. On our site, you'll see something that says like either DIS, IES, CET. These are acronyms of various organizations that have been doing study abroad for a long time. And I'll let Colleen talk to you a little bit more about DIS later. But we do have a lot of those. They tend to be a little bit more costly, especially for in-state students. And we'll talk a little bit about funding as well. But for out-of-state students, they're usually pretty cost efficient, and you can sometimes save money on those. We do have scholarships. We'll talk about those in a little bit. Maybe I'll open it up to any questions right now. If there's anybody that has anything, feel free to speak up or in the chat. If not, we'll kind of keep going. All right, as I mentioned, funding study abroad. So our office during kind of non-pandemic year, usually we give nearly $1 million in scholarships to students to study abroad. Those are primarily need-based, although we do have kind of random scholarships. If you work, for example, at Harris Teeter, or a direct family member worked at Harris Teeter, I think usually gives us about $50,000 to distribute every year. So there's opportunities to get scholarship money that way. We do have merit-based scholarships too. So for example, the Phillips Ambassador Scholarship is a $6,000 scholarship for just going over to Asia. So, we've got a lot of opportunities that aren't just kind of need-based, but the majority of our funding is need-based. Sorry, there's a question in chat. Where would year-long study abroad opportunities fit in here? Are there exchange programs for yes, absolutely. Great question. Just to go back to some of the exchange programs and stuff, we do have year-long exchange. They're called kind of academic year, and that would go from fall to spring, or we've also got something called calendar year as well, which would go from that January time to December time. So yes, we do have opportunities for those for exchange and non-exchange programs. Great question. Speaking of which, like I said, the exchange program is your UNC tuition. So it's a great way to save for UNC in-state students. And direct enroll is a really great way for out-of-state students too. So, and not every program that we have is a direct enroll, and not every program we have is an exchange. You can go to our website and we have different program types listed on there. It's pretty easy to search on our site for different programs too. So. We have study abroad scholarship advising. We actually have my colleague Sharon Beers, who works at the Office of Scholarships and Student Aid and our office. You can go to our website and make an appointment with her. So if you have any questions about your financial aid package, what it might look like to do a certain program, she can usually talk to you about that and what it might cost to study abroad. So definitely encourage you to do that. And if you have any questions about budgets, you can always talk with us too. Budget should be on our program brochure, on every program brochure page. There should be an estimated budget, which gives you the kind of out-of-pocket expenses, and then those that are that'll be just billed to your Connect Carolina. So it's a breakdown that way. The only caveat where they say their financial aid travels with you, that'll go abroad when you go abroad, when you go abroad for the academic year or for a semester. It won't go for summertime. It's usually loans and scholarships there. And then if you receive any work study funding, then that would not be able to go with you. Usually that's offset with other kind of funding that Sharon Beers, my colleague, would help you with. But here's the link too, if you want to go to our website and just find out a little bit more about funding. So. Another great resource is the Funding Finder. So if you haven't checked this out already, go embark.unc.edu, take a screenshot, type it in there, go ahead and check that out. It kind of collates a bunch of different scholarship opportunities that you may be eligible for. You can put all the different criteria. I have this GPA and this year, and it'll go ahead and populate a bunch of different scholarships that you might be into. I would also just recommend just connecting with your study abroad advisor too, myself or two of my colleagues, if you have any questions about that, and we can kind of find out more about kind of what your situation is. Some students, if you receive a federal Pell Grant, they will get a scholarship in the summertime. It's called a Gilman Scholarship. So there's a lot of opportunities to receive scholarships out there, and sometimes it just takes a little bit of asking and doing research, and that's what we get paid the big bucks to do, is to help you. So please reach out to us. So from kind of start to finish, where do we go? We're here to help. We've got 101 information sessions on our website. In fact, there's short little YouTube videos of like a couple minutes each. So if you have a question of like, what does the application look like, or what are the times to study abroad, et cetera. We've got little videos on there that you can go ahead and look at. After you look at those, you can make an individual advising appointment. Those are 20 minutes long with myself or my colleagues. You can meet with us multiple times. You can meet with all of us. And then once we approve you, once you apply, then we do a preview for program. Then we have a pre-departure. So we just did pre-departure for those students that are going over to going abroad this spring. So we did a pre-departure for them. We also have on-site support for our programs, especially if you do a faculty-led kind of program too. You're going to be going to faculty, so there's really great support that way. But we've got support on site for a lot of for all of our programs too. It just kind of depends on what the program is. Also 24/7 assistance, emergency assistance kind of through our office. Now that's not to say that I'm going to answer my phone at 2 in the morning, but you can usually get a hold of us, and we have somebody on call that if an emergency happens, that we're there. We also usually do some re-entry support, and we help you with the credit transfer. So that's kind of our office and what you're getting when you study abroad through us. So basically, I'm just going to turn this over to you all really quick, and you can type in chat. Might be easiest. Where do you want to go? Like, you can also type in what you want to study or what you're interested in, but we're really curious to know where you want to go in the world. I'm expecting some Asia in there too after I give a really big plug. So, all right, China. All right, there's the Asia all coming in here. Now it's all Asia. Forget the Italy ones there. So, no.
I know somebody's going to type Galapagos in there somewhere, right?
There's got to be, huh? Well, I got some paid actors in here. I'm really getting a lot of Asia, so I appreciate that. Japan.
Yay, Galapagos!
So I would say we have a lot of research opportunities in a lot of those locations. And if we don't, I think everything that I saw in there, we definitely have study abroad, especially South Korea. We don't have any research opportunities over there, but we've got a lot of study abroad opportunities. I sent like 50 students there this last summer. So, wow. Dublin. Oh, that's awesome. That's great. Well, thank you all so much for sharing that. Really great locations. And like I said, we've got a lot of research opportunities in a lot of these places that you're putting in there too. And feel free to connect with us too. Yeah, Chile, Germany. Wow, great. Now I'm getting really kind of nostalgic to go back to some of these places and really amped up. We actually have one of my colleagues, she's getting ready to go over to Dublin here tomorrow for a week to do something over there. So it's really great. All right, so Bob mentioned this a little bit, Dr. Pleasance mentioned this a little bit. Right now it's UNC Research Week, so November 8th through the 12th. The theme is Research Perseveres, a lot of in-person and virtual presentations. So please, I think the UNC just sent out an email today about that. So there's all the different sessions, or a lot of different sessions that are listed in there. Please check out that. Just a little plug for our Study Abroad Week too, November 15th to the 19th. We've got Study Abroad Week. Yeah, please go to that kind of link right now and register. You'll make my colleagues very happy too. Take a screenshot, but check that out. We'll have virtual presentations. I don't believe we're doing any in-person presentations, but we will have virtual presentations. I'll be doing another research presentation. Susan might be joining me when we do E3P to talk a little bit about some of those research opportunities, a little bit more in depth. But we've got all different kinds of ones. We've got a UNC Science and Dublin info session, which is actually happening tomorrow. So if that is of interest to you, there's the information right there. I would encourage you to stop by. There'll be some UNC professors that are going to be talking about that. So I know someone mentioned Dublin. There's Jane. Jane, definitely check that out. Put that on your calendar, or connect with the professors if you can't make it. Also follow us, hashtag Heals Abroad. We have all kinds of social media platforms. We've got people in our office that manage those that are a lot more tech savvy than me, but please check those out. Sometimes we have students that go abroad and do Instagram takeovers. So if you go abroad and want to do something like that, get in touch with our office and we'd love to have you help out that way. Also, I will say this, and I'm almost done, and then we'll kind of pass it off to my colleagues and our student panelists, but fill out an interest form. So if you want to stay, how do you stay in touch with our office? Just go to this link right here, go.unc.edu/studyabroadinterest. Take a screenshot, if you will, or with your camera, go there and you can fill it out. We don't flood your inbox with emails like the whatever's the daily stuff that goes out, not the Daily Tar Heel, but some other kind of one that I get to my inbox. We don't do that, but we do give you kind of targeted, relevant information, and you can kind of contour and tailor that to your needs as well. But it's really a great way to kind of stay in touch with our office, especially if you're planning to study abroad at a later date too. So check that out. All right, I'm going to pass this over to Susan. I talk way too much. So Susan, it's your turn now.
And your complaints about his Daily Tar Heel comment to #Derek.
It wasn't the Daily Tar Heel. It wasn't. It was
sent a lot of emails.
It was something else. It was the other one that I can't remember what it is, but it's not
the well. I love the well, but they sent
okay.
a lot.
So the well, that propaganda thing, that one, yeah, you can.
It's great. I'll sign me up for Hong Kong. That sounds awesome. Derek, I wish I could go on all of these, but there are also students who maybe want that experience, but don't want to go overseas for whatever the reason may be. And for those folks, and for folks who are looking for a very specific semester experiential education, we offer the domestic field sites. So there are 3 domestic field sites that are run in cooperation between E3P, SAO, and the Institute for the Environment. And then of course we have our partners. So we have 3 field sites. We have 2 on the coast, one at Morehead City field site, and that is the Institute for Marine Science. So I may call it IMS or Morehead City, and that's the one I'm talking about there. And we are delighted that Priska is going to be able to tell you a little bit about that. And we don't have students from the other 2 field sites, but I think her experience, although is from Morehead specifically, the spirit of her experience is across all the field sites. So we're very glad you're here. We have the Outer Banks field site, which is also coastal, but has a little bit different of an emphasis, and I'll tell you about that. And then we go all the way west to Highlands, which is just a magical location nestled in the mountains of the Nantahala National Forest, and that is the Highlands field site. So I've also put the website for IE, where we give a little more specific information at the bottom, but SAO, really runs these like they do their international sites. So they're always also your go-to. So we have lots of people to support you and answer questions and guide you a little bit to these field sites. So Derek, let's go to the next slide. And I think we're going to start with the Outer Banks. The field site director at the Outer Banks is Lindsay Dobbs, and she's extraordinary, y'all. Our field site directors live full-time at the location of the field sites. So they have career worth of network and research in those areas. And that research and that network, they really become a part of your experience also. So Lindsay Dobbs, she specializes in energy and policy and coastal resilience. And that's kind of the emphasis you'll get there. There are 17 hours credit there. You'll do a capstone, so you'll meet that requirement for E3P undergrad. There's an internship, and you can be placed with anything from an environmental law firm to a sea turtle hospital. They have an extraordinary range of partners at the Outer Banks that they work with. There's an ecological processes and environmental systems class with a lab, sustainable coastal management, and coastal law and policy. So those are the 3 big classes in addition to the internship and the capstone. And then there's a 1 credit seminar. And this is just an extraordinary site. And in addition to field trips and seeing the location, you live in an Outer Banks town, right? You live in Manio. Your host is Eastern Carolina University at Coastal Studies Institute, which is probably one of the most beautiful coastal institutes on the East Coast. It is spectacular, and you take advantage of all the resources that that site has to bear. So that's one coastal site, but if you want to do a little bit more on the marine science side, that will take you to Morehead City. And I'm not gonna tell you too much about it, as Priska's gonna tell you all about the amazing research they've been doing. But I will tell you, it tends to follow the exact same course structure as the Outer Banks, but instead of an internship, you do an independent research project. So you have both an independent research project and a capstone project in Morehead City. Morehead City is grounded in research. The Outer Banks field site has an extraordinary research record also, but the Institute for Marine Science is grounded in research, and these are the leaders in marine science. And you can essentially meet all of your marine science minor requirements if that is your minor. It is by no way restricted to marine science minors, and I don't know the percentage, but many go that are not. But that is also a real draw for folks. You'll do the seminar, you'll do the capstone, so an independent research, and then you'll have 2 courses. One is human impacts on estuarine processes, and the other is estuarine and coastal marine ecology. So deep in the science, deep in being the field. Priska, I'm waiting to see how much time and how many days you spend in the field versus how much you actually spend in a classroom setting. So I'm gonna let you talk a little bit about that. And you can see all the extras that come with that site. And the one thing that is unique to it is a 2-week scientific diving add-on that you can do, which is appeal for people that maybe see that as their next part of their academic or professional career. And then the last site I'm gonna tell you about is the Highlands. And this really takes you all the way into the mountains. It is truly extraordinary and beautiful. Again, you take 17 credits there. There's a capstone that is a group effort. And we go back to the internship model. Our interns are doing everything from screech owl surveys and tagging screech owls to mist netting bats and tagging them and following them with thermal sensors. We do work in microplastics. There's work in salamanders. The Highlands really is about biodiversity and the Appalachian environment. And then the emphasis is on the Anthropocene, human impacts on the environment. So you'll do a capstone and an internship. You'll do a remote sensing and landscape analysis class, and we work drones into that and satellite imagery. It's a pretty neat class. Communicating science. We're researchers and we're scientists and we're educators, but sometimes we don't really communicate well. So really trying to hone some of those skills a little bit. There's one more class called Human Impacts in the Southern Appalachians, and then there is a Southern Appalachian and Cultural History seminar, and you have guest speakers that include folks from Yale Climate Center that are studying climate impacts in the Appalachian region, to leaders from the Cherokee Nation that our field site director, Rhoda Petrick, is our field site director there. She has an extraordinary network of people, and she's a bat expert, by the way, so you will definitely study bats. And I'm going to go back one more second, but Priska's going to talk a little bit about it. But Tony Rodriguez, I skipped telling you that Tony Rodriguez is the director of the Morehead City field site. He has been in that area for over 20 years. and he is just extraordinary. He's also the associate chair of the new department of Eames. So if you haven't run into Tony in that capacity, then you'll probably run into him at the field site if you choose to go there. And Derek, I think that's all I have. I do want to emphasize just a couple things that you brought up. Tuition for the domestic field sites is right on par with tuition on campus. It's not exact, but it is right there on par, and there is a robust financial aid system to help you meet those financial needs. So that should never be a reason that you don't attend a domestic field site. It is probably a little bit more immersed in the environment than the other study abroad programs. Not all of them, I hate to make those generalizations, but you are in the field, Priska, 50%, 75% of the time. You are not sitting in a classroom. The world is your classroom. And again, you capitalize on all the networks that these field site directors have developed over the course of their careers living at these sites. So it really is extraordinary. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. And I guess if there's a really big basketball game, you could still make it home on the weekend, but we'll expect you back in class first thing Monday morning, that's for sure. Is there anything I'm forgetting? They really are transformative semesters, Derek. I don't think you overemphasize that at all. I was also in the Peace Corps, and a course like this is very reminiscent of it, really and truly. You are on site, living as a cohort, and really executing research as a cohort and as individuals, and really building that network. And you will make a great relationship with those field site directors, and they will write you extraordinary letters of recommendation that reflect that personal relationship that you develop with them over the semester. So I'll leave it at that, and I am happy to take any questions. I also talk too much, Derek.
No worries. Thanks so much, Susan. And I'm sure there'll be some questions too once we get past the student panel. I think you're absolutely right. Definitely very transformational experience, hands-on approach. And so I'm sure there'll be a lot of interested students that way. So
there's a lot of firsts at these domestic sites, right? There was a lot of first hiking to really high peaks, or paddling out to marshes and collecting sediment cores and being, waist deep in an estuary. There's a lot of firsts for a lot of students, and it really changes when you talked about confidence, and they're acknowledging their own ability to really do some extraordinary work as undergraduates.
No, absolutely. Just the research skills are really important.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks so much, Susan. All right, I'll pass it over to, I think Colleen is going to be next year. Colleen.
Perfect.
Yeah, hey guys, my name's Colleen. I'm a senior bio major here at UNC. So I'm just going to give a quick overview of my experience abroad. So I just went abroad to Copenhagen over this past summer, where I did neuroscience research. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the research in particular, and then a little bit about my experience abroad. So Derek, if you want to hit the next slide for me. Awesome. So the way that my research worked, I essentially applied through UNC's Study Abroad portal, and then applied to a specific lab through the DIS program. So this lab was actually through the University of Copenhagen in centralized Denmark. And basically what they're looking at is they are studying neuroscience, specifically of neurodegenerative diseases. So I had a really good time. I learned a whole lot about different neurodegenerative diseases, and especially on my project, specifically on Alzheimer's. I got to look at real live microglia and how they're interacting with neurons. I was trained one-on-one by a PhD student who was in the lab, and she served as kind of my mentor throughout the day. And so she both trained me and kind of helped direct me on this project, which was awesome. Typically my routine through the day was I went to the lab in the morning, and I'd work until the early afternoon, and then I had the later afternoon and evening to kind of continue exploring. So definitely there's a lot of benefits to doing this abroad, just because you're learning those communication skills and getting to kind of learn science in another culture is really cool. If we want to hit to the next slide, some of the cool things that I got to do in that off time was different things like all your typical tourist attractions like museums, and of course the food, architecture. But another thing I really wanted to emphasize was also getting to know both the people and the other different events that are just kind of going on. So like while I was in Copenhagen, the Euros were going on and they were hosting actual games. So like what a crazy experience to have something like that happening while you're there. Another thing too is the way that my housing situation was worked out through this program was I actually lived with 2 other Danish students who were local college students within the town of Copenhagen. So that was really, really cool. And I got to get to know them and kind of get to know a different level of the culture. And so spending time with them when I was outside of the lab, as well as having all of my weekends free to travel kind of around Denmark as a whole country, was super awesome. So if you want to go ahead and hit to the next slide, I gave obviously a really quick overview. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to email me, or of course after the presentation as well. But I just really want to emphasize that Copenhagen is awesome, beautiful, especially over the summer. So I highly recommend, as well as why not combine 2 of the best experiences in college research and studying abroad. So definitely encourage you guys at least check out the interest form and see what kind of information is out there for you guys.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing, Colleen. Appreciate it. All right, next up is Priska. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Priska Lim and I'm a junior majoring in environmental science and minoring in chemistry and marine sciences. And I'm currently attending the Morehead City Field Site program. So Derek, if you could go to the next slide. So Dr. Cohen mentioned this earlier, but we basically take 2 classes in a classroom setting, and we have classes every Tuesday and Thursday. And then on Mondays, we have a field trip for either of those 2 classes. So they tend to rotate between the 2 classes every Monday. On Wednesday is our capstone day, where we either go out in the field or we are doing like data analysis back in the lab. And on Friday is our independent research day. And then depending on who you're working with and what you're working on, you might be in the lab or out in the field, and it just depends. So I guess it's about 50 to 60% of our time in the field, and 2 days a week taking classes. So yeah, here are just some pictures of the field sites, the field trips that we've taken. And this one on the right with the guy holding the hammerhead shark, that's actually a 50-year shark survey that's been going on at IMS. And so every semester when the students come, we get to tag along on one of the shark trips, and we see how they catch the sharks and tag the sharks and measure how long they are. So it's a really neat experience. And if you could go to the next slide. So in terms of research, I'm doing an independent project and then the capstone project. So for my independent research, I'm working with Dr. Nathan Hall, and we're looking at the effect of artificial reefs on a toxic dinoflagellate, Gambia discus. So this first photo is me holding a bunch of macroalgae that I pulled out of the ocean at Radio Island on a very dark, stormy day. And then the cells that you see on the right are Gambia discus cells. So this project, prior to the start of the semester, everyone gets to reach out to potential mentors and discuss like research ideas. And you don't have to go in with your own project, because most mentors will have something that they can assign you to. So you just have a semester of exploring what it's like to work in a lab, do a project from start to finish. At the end of the semester, we all have to do a paper and a presentation. So it's very official, and it kind of gives you a sense of what it's like if you were a full-time researcher. Next slide, please. And then for our capstone project, the entire class is involved in this project. And this year we are investigating the ecological function of these ponds that formed along the North Shore banks during Hurricane Dorian. So because of the overwash that was caused by the hurricane, it left behind like hundreds of small ponds along the banks. And the National Park Service wants to know if these ponds are important or not. So we have 6 different groups looking at different topics from geomorphology to fish composition. And my group is looking at primary producers, which include the macrophytes and the phytoplankton, the microalgae. So we experienced a lot of very intense field work. We had to beat down many bushes to get to the ponds, because they tend to be, surrounded by a lot of vegetation. So it's truly a very unique experience, and I think something extremely valuable to experience as an undergraduate, because the field experience you have will translate to grad school, definitely. So that's my quick spiel on what the Morehead City Field Site program is all about, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Thanks so much, Priska. Bob, I'll turn it over to you, and then if we can, any students have any questions or anything, you can type them in chat, or you can kind of speak up too.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. And thank you, Colleen, Priska, and Susan. Yeah, I just want to turn it over to anybody to sort of solicit any questions you all have. Now is the time. If people want to either direct message me any questions that you have, you can put them in the regular chat, or you can speak out loud. I think we're a small enough group, we can manage anything. We want to be able to answer any question that you have.
I'll start it off if that's okay. First of all, Priska and Colleen, y'all already talk like researchers. I don't know anything about the neurosciences for Colleen, but you sounded like a scientist. And Priska, you already sound like Tony Rodriguez. You sound like a marine scientist. Is ridiculous. So this is for both of y'all. Is at the end of the semester, and you're not quite there, Priska, but you, Colleen, you've had a time to kind of like reflect, right? Is it changed your course of study, or did it like reinforce what you thought, you know, your direction wasn't as an undergrad? Not that you have to know your exact direction as an undergrad, but in general, did you come back to campus and were like, oh, now I think I'm gonna do this, or not be intimidated by this, or something like that?
Yeah, actually, it's funny you say that. So I did the lab over the summer, kind of hoping as a different experience. A lot of my lab work had been in genetics, but I had always wanted to try neuroscience. So I went ahead, went for it, and I am now doing a minor in neuroscience over the course of my senior year and trying to do a gap year in a neuroscience lab. So I can say it's transformative. It definitely changed my path a lot, even without the bias of it being in Denmark.
Yeah, for me, I went in with a very strong interest in phytoplankton, and I'm continuing the very strong interest in phytoplankton, but also because I'm interacting with so many people, you know, I realized that marine science is much more than just the one field I'm looking at. And I think I'm developing a more like intersectional view and trying to relate my organism of study to the other bigger organisms. And I think it's showing me that I can definitely do science, and I definitely want to go to grad school. But I also have peers here who, after a couple of months here, know that research is not for them. So it's a very unique experience, and coming here and feeling it before you actually commit to, you know, 5 to 6 years of a PhD program is very, very beneficial.
That's awesome. I couldn't have asked for better answers, really and truly. And to learn that maybe something isn't your cup of tea is also valuable. And it doesn't mean you still have that background, right? You still have that context, and you're still going to probably touch all that in some way in your future. So it sets you up regardless. So great answers. Thank you.
There's another question in chat, is that are there set faculty members for study abroad, or can you pick a faculty member of your choice to be your mentor? I'll speak a little bit to some of the study abroad programs kind of internationally, and then maybe if Bob or Susan want to comment too. But for example, if you want to go to Hong Kong, or if you want to go to Singapore, they actually have a bunch of staff, or excuse me, a bunch of professors doing research over there. And so then we would kind of match you up with somebody over there that has a similar interest in doing research. You can definitely source that on your own, but if not, we can help you with that too. You can find that information on our website as well, or you can message me and I can pass that off to you too. So it kind of just depends on the program, really, of what that kind of mentorship role looks like, and then if that's something you have to source on your own, or if we set up. I don't know if Bob or Susan want to add to that.
You covered that well. Yeah, it really just depends on the program. There are some via the institute where you'll be, traveling with a faculty member here at Carolina and essentially taking a Carolina class and being shepherded into that project. And there's some, like Colleen did, where you maybe don't really know the person until you get there. You might have communicated ahead of time, but you're really kind of being immersed into a new program with a faculty mentor and from another university. So all kinds of models, and it really depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah, the domestic field sites are constrained by the location, but within the domestic field sites at each one is this broad range of exposure that you can get. But, you can't find a mentor in, mountain trees at the coast, right? But they still have a broad range for you. And one cool thing I will add is that, Priska, I think some of your work is actually part of a longer term research effort. So that Nathan works on, you're actually not just doing your project, right? Your information data is going into this larger body of work. So you're really carrying a piece of science forward. And Colleen, I got the sense that was true for you also, that your work was fitting into a larger effort. Got real world meaning, right?
Yeah, great question. So the question is, what is the best source to look at when starting the application process? In other words, what's the starting point? Yeah, so for study abroad, you know, I would definitely go to our website, and you can just type in Google search of study abroad UNC, and you'll be able to find us, or just studyabroad.unc.edu. We've got a lot of information on there. Go ahead and peruse that. Check out our 101 kind of videos for the application process, et cetera, or make an appointment to meet with me or one of my colleagues. We'd be happy to talk to you. We're regionally focused, so if you kind of know where you want to go, all those people that were saying yes to Asia, you'd be talking to me. A couple of them that are interested in Italy, Boo, you talk to Caitlin, my colleague. So anyways, it just kind of depends on who, you know, where you're going, on who you talk to, but definitely check our website out. We also have two, application cycles. So if you're interested in going abroad this coming summer, fall, or academic year, our application cycle opens on November 15th and it closes on February 10th. And so that's when you'd apply to study abroad then. So, you know, Dr. Cohen on our field sites, those would be fall. So you'd apply during that kind of November 15th to February 10th time. Now, if you're interested in going in spring of 2023, our spring 2022 cycle is already passed, then you'd apply in August, from August 1st to September 10th. So that's when you apply. So it kind of just depends on when you want to go and kind of where you start off.
Last call for questions. I just put a chat to everybody that you can meet with all of us. Derek, Susan, Priska, and Colleen. We all have various ways to make appointments. If you're not sure, please go to the OUR website or to the Study Abroad website or the Institute for the Environment website. Did I get that right? Sorry. Yes, thank you. Awesome. All right, that's a wrap, everybody. Thanks so much for being here tonight. And please follow up and come see us. Thanks, everybody, for participating as well. Have a good night.